Welcome to Inside Exchange, Topics for Manufacturers, a series bringing you expert-led presentations on the issues that matter most to members. The curated topics in this series feature presentations from associate members and subject matter experts through on-demand and live webinars to help Hudson Valley manufacturers. If you have topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, contact us at info@councilofindustry.org. Let's begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Inside Exchange, where we spotlight subject matter experts and practical strategies to help our members thrive. Today's session is presented by our associate members, Insperity, a company that has been helping businesses succeed since 1986. Insperity provides a wide range of HR and business functions, including employee benefits, compliance assistance, workforce optimization, and yes, workplace safety, all tailored to meet the unique needs of companies like yours. In this episode, Safety is No Accident, Building a Culture of Safety in Manufacturing Operations, Insperity explores how our members can implement a robust and sustainable safety program that touches every part of their organization, from the shop floor to leadership. We are excited to share this presentation with you and grateful to our colleagues at Insperity for their insight and expertise. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Libby.
Hello and welcome. Today we'll explore 7 practical strategies that can help manufacturing companies like yours strengthen your talent pipeline. By the end, you will have a solid roadmap to build a strong, skilled workforce that can help drive your business forward. Encouraging you to be very interactive. So let's get started with introductions. My name is Jennifer Libby, and I'm a district manager with Insperity. I have over 25 years of HR experience and 20 plus in manufacturing. So I know firsthand how critical it is that you recruit and retain top talent. Today, joining me is Andrell Gautier. Andrell is a human resources consultant with Insperity, and she works closely with clients across many industries with their HR challenges to help build strong and effective teams. Andrell's insights will be invaluable as we discuss strategies for attracting and retaining top talent in manufacturing. Not just people to fill openings, but top talent. Thank you for joining me today, Andrell. I'll pass things over to you now to get started.
Thank you, Jennifer. Today, we'll be talking about one of the biggest challenges facing manufacturing and businesses, and that's attracting and retaining skilled workers. We'll explore practical strategies that can help you build a strong talent pipeline, improve retention, and set your team up for success. So let's dive in. Manufacturing has been the backbone of the American economy. So today we're going to talk about the importance of manufacturing in the United States. From the Industrial Revolution, when U.S. manufacturing began its rise to global prominence, to the post-World War II boom, the industry has been instrumental in shaping our nation's success. While we saw some challenges in the mid-20th century, I'm excited to see the resurgence we're experiencing today and the renewed focus on domestic production. So let's now talk about the talent challenges many of you are facing in manufacturing. It's no secret that it's a tough hiring market. We see it every day in my field. First, manufacturing is facing a limited workforce and widening skills gap. Finding workers with the right technical skills has become a major hurdle, especially as technologies in our industry evolve. Then we've got the issue of perception. Unfortunately, manufacturing jobs often get an undeserved reputation for being outdated or just downright unappealing, which can discourage new talent from emerging and entering into the field. Retention is another key challenge. Without clear development paths, employees are more likely to look elsewhere for growth opportunities and flexibility in their roles. Finally, we're competing not just with each other in the industry, but also with tech and service sectors, offering higher wages and different work environments. In spite of these challenges, the good news is that with the right strategies, we can tackle these challenges head on and set all of our teams up for long-term success. Up next, I'll walk you through 7 key strategies designed to help manufacturing businesses like yours attract and retain your top talent. So let's kick things off with strategy number 1, optimizing job descriptions for today's talent market. A job description is one of the most powerful tools that you have for attracting the right candidates. Consider it to be your bread and butter to try to find the best person for your organization. It all starts with your job description. It sets the expectations and shows candidates why they should choose your company. So how do we craft a job description that stands out? Let's go over a few basic best practices. First of all, we want to start by highlighting perks that matter, such as competitive pay and shift flexibility. This is going to be extremely critical as you're creating those job descriptions because that's what the market, that's what employees are looking for in today's industry. These are huge selling points, especially in the manufacturing industry. Avoid jargon and focus on essential skills. We want to make sure that we keep it very, very clear and relatable so that candidates can immediately see if they're a good fit for your organization. Understand it works both ways. The candidate needs to see if they're a good fit for the organization just as well as you trying to see if the candidate is a good fit for your organization. We also want to make sure that we mention opportunities for growth, like career advancement or apprenticeships. This shows that there's a path moving forward with your company. Also, it's very important for you to be transparent. Make sure that you include those salary ranges. We'll discuss why that's important a little bit later on in our slides. We also want to make sure that you provide shift details and expectations right up front. Today's job seekers value and they expect this clarity. Finally, highlight your commitment to safety and employee well-being. This is going to be a top priority for many of the workers in this field. We need you to keep it concise when you're working on job descriptions, but you have to be informative. A great job description makes it easy for candidates to say, this is the opportunity that I have been looking for. So let's move on to strategy number 2, strengthening employer branding and company culture. These two go hand in hand and are absolutely critical when it comes to attracting and retaining your top talent. Your brand, your identity, and your culture tell the potential employee why they should want to work for you, and just as important, why they want to stay. So what makes a compelling employer brand? It's all about showing your company that it's an attractive place to work. So let's go ahead and focus on some key elements. Number 1, career opportunities. You need to show a clear pathway for growth and skill development. Employees want to know that there's a future with your company. Next is stability. You want to highlight consistent work, make sure you put those competitive wages, and also reliable operations. This reassures and builds trust with your potential employees. Excellence. You have to emphasize the commitment to quality, safety, and staying on the cutting edge. Candidates want to align themselves with a company that takes pride in its work. A commitment to employees shows that you are investing in their well-being, and it's a clear message that resonates deeply in today's market. Now let's talk about building a positive company culture. Culture is what keeps employees engaged, motivated, and connected to their work. Here are a few ways to cultivate that kind of environment. Number one, we want to celebrate those milestones, recognize work at anniversaries and project completions. It's a simple way to show employees that they're valued. The next is we want to offer incentive programs. Whether it's points for accomplishments or small rewards, these programs can keep motivation extremely high. We want to also encourage peer-to-peer recognition. When team members acknowledge each other's hard work, it builds camaraderie and trust. Next, we want to make sure that we have that top-down praise. Public or private recognition from leadership reinforces employees' sense of worth and belonging. And let's not forget, we want to listen to your employees. That's very, very important. You want to use their feedback to identify trends in morale and find opportunities for improvement. A strong company culture doesn't just happen, it builds through thoughtful, intentional practices. And now I want to add a piece to that as far as culture is concerned. If you have not created a mission statement or a mission, vision, and value statement, I do recommend that you consider that for your organization. It's really important so that it sets the tone for your candidates and employees of where you want to go now and where you want to go moving in the future. Next slide.
Andrell, I really, really love your point about culture and being intentional. One of the ways we talk about culture is there's one official culture, right? What is the poster in the break room? But the actual culture is what employees are saying when no one else is there. So that intentionality and that consistency are key points. I love your point there.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Jennifer, for pointing that out. So now we're going to move on to strategy number 3, and this is supporting your employee well-being and work-life balance. This is going to be extremely critical as now post-COVID, employees, candidates, pulling in and retaining that talent, it's all going to be about making sure that they have a work-life balance and that companies are providing well-being incentives for their well-being. So we're going to talk about that. Prioritizing well-being is a smart business strategy. You need to do it for your business. A focus on well-being boosts productivity, it reduces burnout, and it keeps your top talent on board. If you don't do it, I want you to understand your competitor is going to be doing it on your behalf. So you have to do it to remain competitive in this workforce right now. So how do we actively support employee well-being? Here are some practical strategies. You want to, first of all, encourage healthy habits. Programs like fitness challenges, step challenges, for instance, are a fun way to promote physical activity and, again, that team camaraderie, which is so important. The next thing is we want to provide that mental health support. Mental health is health. We want to make sure that we explain that very, very clear. It is part of being healthy overall. So we want to make resources like counseling, stress management, and all those tools, have those readily available to your workforce. Lastly, you want to maybe think about hosting a wellness event. There are many health organizations around that are more than willing to come and speak on their behalf to your industry, to your workplace. On-site health screenings and wellness fairs can make it so easy for employees to focus on their health, and they actually want that. That keeps them engaged and that keeps them motivated to stay within your organization. Let's move on to strategy number 4, enhancing compensation and benefits packages. Competitive pay and strong benefits are essential. They help you stand out in a tight labor market and show your employees that their contributions are truly valued. The figures here that you see on the screen is a salary survey. The salary survey is from participating organizations within Insperity's compensation resource library. Data accuracy is specific to job content as matched to similar survey jobs, geographic locations, industry, and company size, such as how many full-time employees you have, and revenue wherever applicable. Surveys are one of many options for your decision makers and that they should use in creating, modifying, or evaluating compensation programs. It's important to note, though, that salary surveys should not interpret the results as necessary for your pay rates for individuals performing on the job. Companies should consider internal equity, which is very, very important, as well as federal and state pay equity laws before implementing any new pay programs or revising employee pay. Due to the timing of the survey data collection and publication, state and local minimum wage requirements may not be reflected in this data set. And it's important to note that when it comes to salary surveys, numbers can change. They can change on a weekly basis, they can change on a monthly basis, they can change based on the economy. There's so many factors that come into play. So just this salary survey that's provided here, if we were to run that salary survey again, definitely coming in 2025, those numbers would look completely different. Also, let's talk about how salary surveys affect FLSA status employees. For non-exempt employees, if we can go back to the other slide for a second. So when it comes to non-exempt employees, it's very important to understand that the salary survey results here do not reflect overtime pay. So with that, you're also going to have to make those considerations as well. So when you're looking at hourly rates, also keep in mind, if you do have a position that does require some overtime pay, those factors are also going to have to be considered in the salary survey. So look at this kind of as your starting base so that you can kind of figure out, are my wages competitive right now? Or am I actually underpaying some of my employees and that's why I'm not able to retain them? Next slide, please. The next strategy is strategy number 5, which is developing and marketing training and apprenticeships programs. This is investing in those skills and the developments. That's one of the smartest moves that you can make for your organization. It's where you want to get that talent and have them stay and grow within your organization. It not only builds a stronger workforce, but it also helps prepare your team for that long-term success. One way to do this is effectively by creating strategic talent partnerships. By working with trade schools, community colleges, and training organizations, you can unlock several key benefits. First, you want to make sure that you gain access to that skilled talent pool. And you can do this by going to your local community colleges. They would love your partnership. These partnerships provide a pipeline of workers who are trained specifically for your manufacturing needs. Lower recruitment costs is also another big plus. When you develop talent in-house through apprenticeships or training, you reduce your reliance on costly external hiring. These programs also boost retention rates. Employees are more loyal when they see that you're invested in their professional growth.
Sometimes, Andrell, when you're having challenges just recruiting those, I was at a company that we developed our own training program, and to your point, it created stickiness. People felt like we were investing in them, and they were not only excited to stay, they told other people about it, and so that helped recruiting externally as well.
No, that's exactly right, Jennifer. And you know, when you actually go to recruit, especially from your community colleges, those also strengthen those community ties within the community. So it's very, very important that you consider that. Partnering with those local institutions, it supports a broader economic growth in your area, and it benefits everyone. So finally, they also help with future proofing. And what that means is training employees in the latest technologies and practices ensures your workforce stays competitive. Remember, those community colleges, they have to make sure that they stay abreast with whatever that latest technology is. Those students are going to be receiving that training firsthand. So here's a tip to maximize the impact of your programs. Create structured learning paths for your employees. This is crucial. You want to start with those entry-level positions. Again, recruiting from those community colleges, going to high schools that have those programs as well. And build a clear pathway all the way up to your leadership roles, right? If you don't have a succession plan, now's the time to start thinking about that as well. This gives your team a vision for your future with the company, and it ensures that you're developing the leaders of tomorrow and that business continuity as well for your organization. So now let's move on to strategy number 6, skills-based hiring in manufacturing. This is all about finding that right balance of hard and soft skills. While technical expertise is critical, soft skills are often the difference between a team that gets the job done and one that truly excels. So let's break down some of those soft skills. This can actually elevate your manufacturing workforce. You want to make sure that you start with clear and effective communication. This reduces the errors and keeps operations running smoothly, whether it's on the factory floor or in team meetings. Employees who exhibit strong problem-solving skills can think critically and troubleshoot issues quickly. These workers are essential for minimizing downtime and keeping production on track. Adaptability is also key and essential. In an industry that's always evolving, you need workers who can embrace new challenges and technologies with that confidence. Teamwork is another must-have. Collaboration across departments supports a more connected and efficient workforce, and it helps your company achieve your bigger goals. Workers who have that strong time management skill can also prioritize tasks to ensure deadlines are met and productivities stay high. And here's a tip to put this into practice. Incorporate assessments or targeted interview questions during the hiring process. This will evaluate whether or not that person has those soft skills. So for example, you can ask a candidate how they've handled conflict in a team setting or how they prioritize tasks under tight deadlines. This helps ensure you're building a well-rounded workforce that's ready to tackle whatever comes next. And I will tell you, in my role in HR, soft skills are so critical to your organization. When you are interviewing those candidates, obviously you want to make sure that they have that experience to work in your industry, but those soft skills are what's going to set you ahead of the game. So please make sure that when you're interviewing those candidates, you ask them, how do they handle those problem-solving techniques? How are they innovative? How do they use their best judgments when things kind of go awry? And that's exactly what happens in any job. Finally, we're going to talk about strategy number 7, modernizing the workplace through technology and streamlining processes. Technology is a powerful tool that can create a better overall experience for your employees. One of the best ways to modernize your workplace is through automation. By investing in clean, advanced technologies, you're not only improving your processes, but also enhancing your job satisfaction. Here's how automation is going to make a difference for your organization. First, it relieves employees from those repetitive tasks. This allows them to focus more on skills and engaging roles, which leads to greater job satisfaction. Second, automation helps reduce physical strain. Tasks that involve repetitive motions or heavy lifting, like material handling or machine operation, those can take a huge toll on employees' bodies and their physical health. Automation that takes over those tasks creates a safer and a healthier work environment. When employees see that you're investing in technology to improve their experience, it reinforces their value to the company and increases engagement. And I will tell you, we did a survey a while ago with the Society of Human Resource Management, and one of the number one reasons for burnout was those repetitive tasks, especially when it involved a lot of physical labor. So you want to think about that too. That is one of the number one reasons why employees get burned out or they wind up leaving the company. So automation is key. Let's take a look at a real-world example. A study conducted on a small manufacturing business in Ohio found that automation made a significant impact on employees' well-being. For instance, automating CNC machining and material handling tasks reduced that physical strain for employees. The findings did show that even in small to medium-sized enterprises, when automation reduced workplace hazards, employees felt more connected to their work, and productivity gains are a natural result. This case study highlights the potential for automation to make a real difference, no matter the size of your business.
Andrell, I love that example, and I think automation can really get a bad rap sometimes. There's a great way to deal with skilled worker shortages, and then also to enhance, as you called it, the well-being of that person in that role. And so, again, I have a real-world example of a company I worked at where there was automation introduced and enhanced skills training for those existing employees to help take it to the next level.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's quickly recap what we've covered today. We've explored strategies to attract and retain top talent, from crafting clear job descriptions and building a strong employer brand to offering wellness programs and competitive pay. We've also talked about the value of partnerships with local schools and how technology can modernize your workplace and improve safety. With these tools in your toolkit, you're well on your way to strengthening your talent pipeline and setting your team up for long-term success.
Now let's move along and let's talk a little bit about some questions we had in the chat. So, a couple of things that came up, and it's very interesting to see that, things that people are experiencing in one industry, they want in another industry, such as manufacturing, even if that doesn't necessarily fit. So I know Patrick said talent's desire to work remotely, which doesn't always align well with manufacturing. So great point, Patrick. Sometimes we need to be on site. Again, we think clearly that is something innate and understandable, but we also have a very, very nimble workforce right now. A couple other comments in the chat. We talked about flexibility and compensation. Again, speaking to that 26.7% of you with enhancing compensation and benefits. Compensation has been our biggest challenge. Andrell, I know you talked a lot about making sure that salary surveys are current and accurate. And one additional thing I think is critical is to make sure they're geographically specific. So we're seeing things in metro areas. We're seeing different rates in rural areas. We're seeing things differently on the West and the East Coast than we are in the Midwest. So really looking at, again, Angelique, you talked about that compensation being a challenge, and we hear you on that. And then, William, you said we have manufacturing sites in small towns. It's difficult to find talent willing to move to that location. Great point. How do we get people that are willing to commute more? How do we enhance our packages to make that worthwhile for people? So great point on that. And then, Michael, I think this is one of my nearest and dearest issues. How do we promote from within? We talk about, but you so accurately point out that sometimes internally we promote beyond an individual's capacity or ability. Maybe they've got such a great work ethic, but then they get to a level that's kind of out of the realm. So how can we support that with maybe a different movement or training and development beyond that? So some really great comments on that.
And I'd like to chime in a little bit on some of the comments that were made as well. We are very much aware in the HR field the challenges when it comes to compensation. And at the federal level, as you know, there have been many federal charges that have been coming through as far as exemption salary increases. That's now in appeals. And then also from the non-exemption part, after COVID, many employees were refusing to go back to work because they felt like it just wasn't worth their time and for them to go back to work with the incomes that were coming in. So you saw a push now for raising those hourly rates. Some of the states now have mandates where those hourly rates have significantly increased, especially in areas such as California. So we do understand that compensation is a challenge, especially in that small business sector to mid-size section. That's going to be difficult for you, especially as you're trying to grow your business. So with that, also think about some of the incentives that we talked about today. Looking at the well-being, asking your employees, do climate surveys. And if you're not familiar with a climate survey, it's asking those employees, what are your motivators to come to work? It's not just always about salary. It's making sure that they're in a safe place, that they love their workplace culture and their environment. So all of these other factors come into play, but ask your employees, what are their needs? What are their desires? And it's not just about that salary. So think about that as well. I wanted to talk about the remote factor. We all know that remote is that big buzzword. Everybody wants to work remote, right? But not every position is capable of having that. So be honest with your employees about that, right? So when you are actually trying to recruit for jobs in your industry where remote may not be a factor, it's okay. It's okay to have that conversation. It's okay to let them know, unfortunately, this position will not meet the criteria for remote. But again, focus on those other factors. Try to provide maybe a wellness fair. Try to engage more with your employees. And again, it's about going back to them and asking what their needs are. If you can't offer remote, see what else that employee may want to keep them within your organization. Also, in terms of commuting, again, now that we are in this remote work environment, a lot of people like the ability to work remote because then they can work anywhere, right? Again, in the manufacturing area, that's not easy. You can't do that. So it's also connecting with your communities to figure out how do you highlight those cities where you are for the offerings, such as the housing market. What other, do they have other sites and other things that employees may find engaging for their families, such as the school system? All of those things are important as well. So you have to make sure that you highlight that. It's not just about compensation, but highlight those things and show, why would you want to move to this city? Look at all the benefits. A lot of people are moving away from that big city lifestyle because of the traffic and the chaos. And sometimes people will say it's just dysfunction. I want to actually move into more rural areas. Highlight that and make sure you have that right match with your candidates.
Andrell, I think
Jennifer.
You bring up such great points with that. And, one of the things that we talk about sometimes is that we can't with manufacturing. I have a great example of a prospect a client who thought they couldn't accommodate. It was a CFO role and they thought they had to be on site because everybody else had to be on site. And because of the lack of candidates in their geographic region, they decided to offer some flexibility on a Monday and a Friday, and it actually did work. So, I think the labor shortage has caused us in the HR field to kind of look at things a little differently. And to your point, sometimes you just can't accommodate that, and that's okay. Just be straightforward. Another great point in the chat, Andrell, I'm not sure if you saw it, but make sure you check with your state's grant programs. Some great work is being done at the high school level to funnel some of those. So I think that's a great point with that. So
right. And actually, if I can highlight on that, if there used to be this perception of everybody has to go to college and get a degree to work, regardless of whatever that job was. Well, that's now changing, right? Those perceptions are changing. And I'm glad that they're changing because there are so many jobs that you don't necessarily need to have that college degree. Getting a college degree is expensive, right? But then, our high schools are doing a phenomenal job training those students so that once they graduate, they can go and work in the workforce. So I want to make sure that I highlight that too. And I'm so glad that that was mentioned in the chat. And that is shifting. We are now in my field in HR. It's not just about that college degree that's going to get you that job. We're looking at those training resources. We're looking at the experience that you have as well. And also we're encouraging our clients, for those entry level positions, to kind of look for those that are graduating from high schools that actually have those apprenticeship programs. Those are critical and they're crucial, and they actually have high retention because when you hire them in an entry level position and they see levels for advancement in their career, that's what's going to keep an employee. You took a chance on them, they're going to take a chance on you with your organization.
Andrell, that's a great point. There's a high school in southern Minnesota that actually has a signing day. So we're all familiar with signing days, right, for athletes who commit. These are actually, it's a signing day for people who are committing to go to work for local manufacturers. So celebrating them as well. So I think that's a great point. Andrell, shifting gears a little bit, there was a great comment in the chat. A great question, actually, and it's how do you create a career path program when your organization is small with limited growth opportunities? Great question.
No, that is an excellent question. And, I work in a small business sector. So, I understand the challenges when it comes to how do you have that career path when maybe you are a size of 10. I have clients that are a size of 5. So it's just highlighting where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? In the next 5 or 10 years. I also mentioned about mission, vision, and values. Those statements are critical for your organization because, employees know if you're working for a small business and you can't exactly, have that career path as a larger organization. But what they do care about is, are they going to be involved in that growth process? Are you going to be looking to them to seek some of that feedback? It's all about making sure that your employees feel like they are part of the company and they are also helping with that mission, vision, and values. So that's going to be crucial when those career paths are not, straightforward yet. But as you grow, then you start to have that conversation and create that career path. So it's all about making sure that you communicate with your employees and you keep them engaged and involved in the process along the way.
I love that. I love that question. And I love that point, Andrell. The other thing that I think is a fun way to look at that is that we used to think of career ladders, right? Climb the ladder. There's a concept called jungle gym that Sheryl Sandberg talks about in the book Lean In. And instead of just going up, we're going sideways, right? So sometimes growth is not the next step, but it's providing a foundation with that. So encourage people, as you said, ask them for their input. So great point.
Absolutely. And if I can highlight just one last thing on that, that was an excellent point, Jennifer, that you make, because there is also this misperception of everybody wants to be a manager. Everybody wants to climb up that corporate ladder. And that is so far from the truth. There are people who are satisfied with the jobs that they are in and they have passion in the jobs that they are in and they love being in those roles. So again, it's all about making sure that you connect with your employees to ask them, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in this company within the next year or 5 years? That's going to be crucial. And especially with that Generation Z and the younger generations that are coming in now, you have got to connect with them. You can't make these assumptions that everybody wants to work remote just because they're young, or you can't make these misconceptions that, everybody, it works just to get a higher salary. It's not about that. It's also about fulfillment in their role as well.
Yeah, so many nuggets there, Andrell. Love everything you said. There was another great question in the chat that I want to offer up to you. Somebody was saying implementing an ERP system has really helped him with their operations. And then switching gears a little bit, what is the role of the recruiter in this process. So, you've seen a lot of businesses and a lot of industries, Andrell. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So here at Insperity, I want to also give a shout out to our internal departments. We actually have a recruiting department, and there's a reason for that, because there are so many different factors that come into play when it comes to recruiting, from the very beginning of, those interview questions, or actually just creating that job description, that job ad that's going to actually bring people in. So, that's I can sit here and have a conversation alone just on what our recruitment department does. But it is so essential to your organization that we actually have our own internal department that works with you individually to ask those questions of what are you looking for in a candidate, testing those candidates as well to make sure that they're a right fit for the organization and for your environment. And also the testing of those candidates in terms of your criminal, your drug testing, and also making sure that, you check those references based on whatever their resumes are. So there are so many different levels when it comes to recruiting that we have a separate department for that, because it's so essential and there's so many different facets that go with that.
Awesome. So great. So the next step, moving on, thank you all so much for your communication and everything. Spread the word to your team and other professionals who can benefit from these tips. And if you have questions about Insperity, please connect with Carolina Reed, carolina.reed@insperity.com, 281-312-7423. And certainly read more about how Insperity's safety services provide ongoing support for manufacturers of all sizes. Certainly talk about how we can help with recruitment and retention. Andrell, you threw out a lot of nuggets about engagement surveys. Our mission at Insperity is to help businesses succeed so communities prosper. We would love to help do that for you. So thanks, Andrell, for all your wisdom today. Thanks to all our attendees and participants, and we wish you all the very best. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you again to our partners at Insperity. We truly appreciate the time and expertise. If you are interested in learning more or speaking to anyone at Insperity, please feel free to reach out to us at the Council of Industry. You can reach out to Harold, Johnny, and Emma, whoever you are most comfortable reaching out to, or you can email us all at info@councilofindustry.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Inside Exchange, Topics for Manufacturers. We hope you found today's episode valuable. To learn more about the Council of Industry and explore additional resources, visit us at councilofindustry.org.